Welcome to another episode of Tsoni Tales. Today, we are looking into Chapter 3 of Fathers of Nations. In this chapter, we get to have an insight into the life of Professor Karanja Kimani before joining AGDA, and how he came to join AGDA. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Let's dive in. Professor Karanja Kimani, freshly returned from Oxford, was not just another academic. He was an idealist, a reformer, and a man on a mission to reshape the African mind. He arrived at the University of Nairobi like a quiet storm. His appointment as a senior lecturer came during turbulent times, when the University of East Africa had just split into national branches. Kenya needed thinkers who could guide the new nation's development, and Kimani was determined to be one of them. Within weeks, he stirred the academic waters. His voice was bold, his ideas radical. He questioned whether universities should chase prestige or serve the people. And in a landmark debate, he challenged Nairobi University to abandon the motto, academic excellence, and replace it with something more meaningful, relevance to society. The idea spread like wildfire. 6 months later, it became the official university motto, the beginning of Kimani's fame and controversy. Professor Kimani didn't stop there. He insisted that a university should be more than a mirror of society, it should be a driver of change. Many called him naive, some mocked him in faculty meetings. But Kimani had the stubbornness of a prophet, the kind who speaks truth even when the world isn't listening. Amidst the debates to bring change in his teaching life at the University of Nairobi, a beautiful young woman struck his attention, Asiya Omondi, the reigning campus beauty queen. Her sharp mind matched her charm. They were soon inseparable, united by ideas and affection. Their wedding came on a stormy Saturday, a symbolic start for a life filled with thunder and calm in equal measure. Kimani's star continued to rise, a full professor, a family man, a scholar whose ideals seemed unshakable. But the world outside academia was changing. A global recession swept across Africa. Donors tightened their aid, and suddenly, the same ideals Kimani had preached, self-reliance, responsibility, became tools for foreign control. At home, Kimani tried to explain these shifts to his young daughter, Tsoni, over a quiet ice cream date. He told her how foreign lenders demanded new economic rules before giving aid, rules that drained Africa's dignity. As he spoke, his voice carried both wisdom and weariness. "Tsoni," he said, "they're changing the rules so that only they win. And our own leaders are helping them do it." Soon, Kimani's frustrations turned inward, toward his own government. In Parliament, members of Parliament awarded themselves tax-free salaries that dwarfed those of the well-learned professors like himself. Kimani called it a legal coup, the kind of quiet corruption that destroys nations without firing a single bullet. He warned Tsoni, "Parliaments are now where the coups happen. Not in the barracks, but in the chambers of law. The only thing that has changed is to replace tyranny by presidents with tyranny by MPs. New forest, same old monkeys." While Kimani fought moral battles, his daughter Tsoni fought to survive a different kind of war, the war against fear. Kenya's private security industry had exploded. Alarms, guards, armored cars, symbols of a nation protecting itself from its own failures. Tsoni attended a women's safety seminar where she learned to walk with confidence, avoid dark alleys, and stay alert in every moment. At dinner, she passionately lectured her parents on the 3 rules of survival she had learnt: know your surroundings, project strength, and never look afraid. Kimani laughed softly, teasing her that she sounded like a soldier. But Asiya, her mother, listened with pride. For once, their daughter wasn't just smart, she was strong. No one knew that these lessons would never save her. It happened on an ordinary day. A trailer broke loose at a roundabout and slammed into a minibus. Inside sat Tsoni. Witnesses said she looked calm in her final moments, as if she'd accepted the unfairness of life itself. A man with an axe tried to save her, but the wreckage gave way, collapsing inward and squeezing the last breath out of her body. The same girl who had learned how to resist danger had died in an accident she could never control. Her father's world went silent. Grief is a quiet destroyer. In the Kimani household, it settled like dust, heavy, silent, unspoken. Asiya began to drift away. She could no longer stand the man who had once been her world. Kimani tried to comfort her, but his presence only reminded her of pain. Then came the day she told him the truth. She was leaving, not for freedom, but for another man, newborn Walomu, a younger colleague to Professor Kimani, turned wealthy member of Parliament. Kimani's heart broke, but Asiya was resolute. "I'm tired, Kimani," she said. "Tired of idealism, tired of being poor, and yes, if we had a better car, maybe Tsoni would still be alive." And with that, she walked out. Professor Kimani's life was empty. Rage replaced sorrow. Days later, an angry and frustrated Professor Kimani stormed into MP Newborn Wolamu's office. "You fat baboon," he shouted, trembling with fury. He reprimanded him for stealing his wife, an old woman. Yes, he had 3 other young wives. MP Wolamu laughed, waving statistical reports like shields. He mocked Kimani with examples of spouse stealing from Britain and Greece, and then said coldly, "Old is gold, my friend." Professor Kimani was triggered. He snapped. He swung a fist at MP Wolamu, missed, and chaos erupted. Police were called and stormed in. What followed was an arrest of Professor Kimani. Headlines screamed, "Professor arrested for assaulting an MP." His punishment was swift and humiliating. The university demoted him back to senior lecturer for disgracing the institution. The court sentenced him to 6 months in prison. Behind bars, Kimani replayed every choice, every word, every belief that had led him there. He had fought for truth, but truth had cost him everything: his daughter, his wife, his career, and his peace. Yet, somewhere within that broken man, a fire still burned, a sense that his story wasn't over. By the time Kimani walked out of prison, the world had changed. He had once believed knowledge could fix society. Now he understood that ideas alone could not save a nation built on hypocrisy. He walked slowly through the gates, free but hollow, a fallen scholar carrying the ashes of his past. It was a quiet morning in Professor Kimani's lonely home, the kind of quiet that only follows exhaustion. Freshly released from prison and weighed down by sleepless nights, he was trying to rest when a sharp knock echoed from his front door. He groaned, muttering under his breath, "Why don't people just stay in their own homes?" When he finally opened the door, a tall white man stood there. "Is this you, Professor Kimani?" the stranger asked, his voice deep and commanding, almost theatrical. "Yes," Kimani replied, suspicious but polite. The man smiled, extending a business card. "Tad Longway, Director of Special Projects, AGDA, the Agency for Governance and Development in Africa." Kimani compared the card's details with the man's introduction. They matched. Trying to hide his irritation, he asked dryly, "So, how can I help you, Mr. Longway?" But Tad Longway didn't answer directly. Instead, he launched into an odd story about Mark Thatcher, the son of Britain's former Prime Minister, and his failed coup attempt in Equatorial Guinea. The connection seemed unclear, even absurd. Finally, Kimani interrupted, "And the relevance of that story to your visit this morning is what again?" Longway smiled faintly. "Ah, you are right to suspect there is a connection. Perhaps I should come in and explain." Reluctantly, Kimani stepped aside and motioned him in. "All right, but only for a minute." Seated across from each other, Tad Longway wasted no time. His voice was calm but heavy with conviction. "Professor Kimani," he began, "our presidents, all they ever do is ride on our backs. We must stop them. At independence, they promised to fight poverty, ignorance, and disease. Decades later, they have added corruption and impunity." He leaned forward. "Why should the police stop taking bribes when those who tell them to stop take even bigger ones?" Kimani frowned, both skeptical and intrigued. Then, Tad's tone softened. "We need an agency with the will to change Africa. That's what AGDA is, a think tank for change." When Tad mentioned activism, Kimani shook his head. "You must have the wrong man. I'm a teacher, not an activist." Longway chuckled. "But a teacher is an activist, Professor. You coach people toward a better future. I coax them. Our methods differ, our goal does not." For a moment, Kimani said nothing. He was no longer sure whether this visitor was delusional or visionary. Then Tad's tone grew serious again. "There is a path we would like you to follow, Path Alpha." He reached into his briefcase and produced a document titled Path Alpha. "Mobilizing civic discontent into will to change, that's our motto. Unless there is will to change, there will be no change. So says the law of will." "Why me?" Kimani asked finally. Longway smiled. "Because you fit the profile of a Path Alpha traveler. You believe in change, and you have the tenacity to chase it." Kimani almost laughed. "You've just met me. How could you possibly know that?" "From your history, Professor Kimani," Tad said with confidence. "Your battles with the system, your ideals, your suffering. We know them all." He paused before adding, "Join us, and AGDA will handle everything. All expenses, all arrangements. You'll travel to Cape Town for orientation, then to Banjul, the Gambia, for the upcoming African Heads of State Summit. There, you'll play a role in something bigger." Kimani sighed, trying to hide the flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "I'll think about it," he said. Longway stood up, smiling knowingly. "Yes, let it stew. Mull it over between the sheets tonight. Kick it back and forth. You'll know your answer by morning." And with that, he left. That night, Kimani lay awake, his mind spinning. Years of betrayal, loss, and disappointment had worn him down. His wife had left, his daughter was gone, his university had turned its back on him. Now, AGDA had handed him a reason to leave everything behind, a new purpose, a new path. By morning, the decision was made. He enlisted. That was Chapter 3 of Fathers of Nations. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to join us for Chapter 4 in our next episode of Tsoni Tales.